Anita, how's your mental health?
Questionable at all times. You know this.
Yeah, how's the mental health of your children?
Also a little bit tricky. Can I tell you my experience in trying to find therapists for myself and my kids, Mel?
Yes, please.
Okay, this is how it goes. You ask around your friends and your family for a referral for somebody who's nearby. You finally find somebody who sounds like they might work for your family. You give them a call and you find out that A, they're not accepting new patients, or B, they have a huge wait list. So you start over again and you ask people if they know anybody who would be a good therapist and a good fit. Finally, you find one, you go and you meet with them and you figure out that you don't actually like them that much. But it's been so much work to find somebody who you can go to in your area that you're kind of stuck with them. Well, do you have any ideas for how to get around this?
I do, because guess what? I've actually had some therapists that I have found on my own, which involves what you're saying. Sometimes I remember one time I was like 3 hours in the bathtub on my phone looking through websites. I was such a prune at the end. But I have also had the experience with working with BetterHelp. And it was like, I don't want to say too good to be true, but because it is true, but it's like amazing because I was matched with my therapist within 24 hours.
And you didn't have to go through all of that other ridiculous process of trying to find somebody. And here's the cool thing too, is if that person didn't work out for you, you can just switch and say, and it's not like you're committing to another years long search for somebody who you're going to jive with.
It's true. And I lucked out, or maybe just BetterHelp is really good at matching people together because I never had to change my therapist. I loved her. Perfect fit for me. And I know that some of our friends have used BetterHelp and they've had to change therapists, and boom, same day, you can change.
Easy peasy.
You can ghost your therapist. Get a new one.
I love this idea. BetterHelp is one of our sponsors. If you use our promo code trybetterhelp.com/WWDN, you get 10% off your first month. And we totally recommend it.
Yes. Get some therapy. That's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN.
Deep breaths, Mel. Deep breaths.
No deep breaths.
Shallow breaths, Mel. Shallow breaths, Mel. All right, let's get right to this, shall we? Mel might have to stop to go barf because she's feeling a bit queasy. So always a fun adventure, right?
Yeah, it's all good. I'm good. But we're here. And thank you to our guest who has put up with us so far.
You guys are great.
Well, we appreciate you. And we are quite the trio today because we all have a little bit of drama going on, right?
Always.
So fun.
You want to tell us who you are, mystery guest?
Hi. Yes. Thank you for having me today. I'm so excited to be on your podcast because I love your podcast. Yay. I love podcasts. Yes. I listen when I walk my daughter. When I take my daughter on walks in her stroller. My name is Jessica Ayers. I go by the Singing Widow on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and my website and all of that.
Are you a Jess, a Jessie, or a Jessica always?
I am never a Jessie. I hate that.
Okay. Noted.
And there's a story behind that.
Okay.
But I like to go by Jess. And I say like Jess is my widow name. I was Jessica before I became a widow.
Okay. Cool. I guessed where Jessica lived and I was completely wrong. I have no idea where I got this information, but I'm like, you live in Omaha, right? And she's like, close. Where do you live, Jessica?
I live in the Florida Panhandle.
Like right next door, guys. Almost.
Like Fort Walton Beach, does that count? Or is that not quite the Panhandle?
I am like 45 minutes away from Fort Walton Beach. I'm in Bay County, Florida. It's like Panama City Beach, basically.
Beautiful. Well, yes. Great to have gorgeous. You. How's the humidity in the winter?
It's not so bad this time of year. It's really not. I mean, it gets uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's not bad. Not deathly.
No,
all the time.
It's way better than during the summer. The summers are like brutal.
Did you grow up in Florida?
I did. Yes. I grew up. I was raised in Florida. We moved around a lot when I was a kid. So we moved to Alabama and Mississippi, a few different places, but all in the South.
Awesome. Now, I have to ask you because I'm a musician. Tell me about the singing part.
So my mom is a music teacher. So my music roots started when I was a little girl. She raised me singing. I used to sing the Little Mermaid song, all the
Oh,
family members when I was a little kid. So I've been singing, I say, since I was like 5 years old. And then it turned into a career when I fell in love with Justin, because Justin was a phenomenal guitar player, like amazing from the time he was like 15 years old. So we fell in love, and then we started playing music together, and then that became our career. So when he passed away, it only felt fitting to name myself the Singing Widow.
wait, did you guys have like a family band?
Well, we didn't have kids at the time, so it was just the two of us. But yes, we did. We wrote and, recorded our own music.
Performed.
We went on the road, performed together. That's what we did
Whoa.
for 10 years. Yeah.
Who played the washboard? Please tell me one of you.
I might have tried it once or twice, but probably wasn't my thing.
Oh, that's so cool.
So did you
Yeah.
you guys did original music? Is that what you're saying? Because you wrote tunes, or did you do a mix of covers and originals?
We did both. So originals don't really pay very well unless you have a really good agent and you get a record deal and all of that. So we did write and record our own music, but we played the covers for the money. Yeah.
Yep. Was in a cover band for 16 years. I feel you so hard. So
Oh yeah.
yeah.
I still sing today. I still sing with cover bands occasionally for fun. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. Gotta get your songs either in with an artist that is established so that you can get royalties, or go that route. It is a whole thing. Well, welcome from one musician to another. Welcome and sorry.
Yes. Thank you for having me. And sorry, right back at you, ladies.
What about American Idol? Can you do it that way?
I actually tried out for American Idol. Like,
Did?
yes, and I made it like a few
Oh.
rounds in, and then I got my dreams crushed. And
No.
yeah,
Was this pre-widowhood or post-widowhood?
pre-widowhood. Yes.
Because they should have taken you post-widowhood, because that would have been the best human
they
interest
would have
story.
taken me post-widowhood, and the reason why they told me they didn't take me before was they told me I didn't have a story.
Ah.
Right? I know. I was like 3 years too late.
Oh, man. Okay. Let's get to your widowhood story then, since
Okay.
it happened too late. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, so me and Justin had been married for right about 10 years when we decided we were ready to have a child, finally, and had no problems getting pregnant there. Had a great pregnancy, and then labor and delivery was pretty fine. A little bit of placenta attachment issues there, so there was some trauma there, but everything ended up being okay. It was a little scary, and that kept us in the hospital for like an extra day. And so we were like 2.5, almost 3 days in the hospital. So then we went home to our house. We had bought like 10 months prior. I think we had only been living in our house for 10 months. And we spent the night. And then the next day, we were planning to have family members over. So we had like his side of the family, and then my family, his dad's side of the family's parents are divorced. And so his aunt, cousin, and stepmom were over, and it was in the early-ish evening, and we were waiting for the rest of the people to arrive. And I had been nursing the baby, and I think I had taken a nap. So we were 3 days postpartum, 3 days, and we had not even been home for 24 hours. And we were sitting in the living room, and that was when we heard a noise. And it was a loud noise, and it sounded like it's really weird. Like, it wasn't as loud as you thought. I mean, it was loud, but it almost just like it was the glass that we heard, like a popping sound. And so I immediately looked to my newborn son, who was in his cousin's arms. And she said, he's fine. He's fine. Like, we didn't know what was happening. And Justin, I was sitting on the couch, and then Justin, I'm positioning myself, even though I know people can't see me.
Imagine, guys, just
Imagine, yes. I'm sitting on the couch and Justin, his aunt was across from me and Justin was kind of in front of me, but sideways. And so I immediately turned the opposite way to my son. And so my back was turned to Justin and I didn't know what had happened at the time. But basically what had happened was a bullet had come in through our house and Justin was, I mean, you can't make this up. He was sitting down and his aunt, they were going to pick up food. That's why I like to tell people my husband died over a conversation about fried chicken because it's the truth. They were going to pick up food and she said, I got to go get the chicken. And Justin stood up and said, I'll go with you. And that was when we heard the noise. And it was literally the second he stood to his feet, the bullet came in and hit him in the head and killed him instantly.
What in the world?
Yes, it's insane. And the officers on the scene that day, like the circumstances that killed him, like the man that was not legally living there, he was a convicted felon. He was high on methamphetamine. He was drunk. And he was illegally living in that house and said he barely squeezed the trigger, which we don't even know if that's true. And then there was, I mean, I'm not kidding you. There were so many trees in between the house that he was in and the house that we lived in. Ginormous trees. And it did not hit a tree. It made its way through all those trees and hit Justin at the second he stood up. It was like an act of God, people say, but I don't like referring to it like that, but.
Or a sniper.
Yeah. I mean, that's why they called it one in affinity. They said that you couldn't make that shot if you tried.
Yeah.
Wow.
I feel like that kind of incident, though, in reference to it being an act of God or whatever you want to call it, is just like, it just takes away any sense of like safety in your existence because like you're doing nothing wrong and everything had to line up just perfectly for this to happen. It's not anything that anyone could predict, or it's just so bizarre.
Yeah. And that's like, we all have the like a what if moments when our spouse dies, but like my like what if moments are like, they were insanely intense, because there was just so many of them. It was like, it was literally a split second. Like if he had not stood up, and his aunt, she had major survivor's guilt because she was going to go by herself to get the food. And she's always felt like if she wouldn't have said like, I'll go get the food at that exact moment, like that bullet could have come in and it could have just like gone, over his head, because he would have been sitting down. That it was just right at that exact time. And then the circumstances of the fact that we were 3 days postpartum, like we had been together since I was 14, he was 16. So we had been together our entire adolescence, grown up, been married, been together. I mean, we were it for each other. And for him to die 3 days after becoming a dad, it was the most traumatic thing.
How old were you guys at the time?
He was 33. I was 31.
And your baby was 3.
3 days. Yes.
This sucks.
Yes. It's
no offense.
No. Yeah. It's really traumatic. Lots of PTSD here.
Did the guy go to prison for this? Barely squeezing the trigger?
Yes, he did. He did go to prison. That was a whole nother thing. The cops like roughed him up because he tried to run away from the cops. So they had to like catch him. They roughed him up. Apparently they didn't do everything correctly. They didn't read him his rights. So then when it came time for the trial, we ended up agreeing on a plea deal because it was not looking like well. It was looking like he might do a few years. So we agreed on a plea deal. So he got like 16 years, unfortunately. My son will be like 16 when the man gets out of prison.
Wow.
Yeah.
Also, this just confirms everything that we think about Florida. I'm so sorry.
I know. And we were talking about this off the recording. Florida has crazy stories. And every time I see a crazy story pop up about Florida, I'm just like, yep, I am one of those stories. Yes.
What year was this?
This was 2014.
So it's been 9, almost 10 years at the
9
time
years.
of this recording.
Yes. I'm a nine year almost. I am almost to being a decade widow. I cannot even believe it. It's been so much fun.
How did you raise a newborn by yourself in these like super traumatic circumstances?
So I'm very blessed to have amazing parents. And I left our home that night. I mean, I think I don't, my memories are very weird from that day. I think they gave me some type of tranquilizer that night because I was hysterical and very much a danger to myself because I was 3 days postpartum and I had that trauma in, delivery. So, I don't remember a lot. So I left that day, moved in with my parents. All my stuff was packed up by a moving company and moved into storage, and baby stuff was brought over, and I lived with my parents for almost 2 years. I had like a bit of time where I like kind of moved out on my own. I was like, I'm being independent. And then I realized how sucky that was. And I moved back in with them but it was them. It was my brother helped for a little while, my mother-in-law, my husband's mom. I had a major support group around me.
Yeah. Being postpartum, that's just another whole thing.
Did you have to attend the court hearings? Or I know there's a lot of pre-trial hearings in cases like that where it's felony stuff. At least, I mean, I'm not quite familiar with how they are in every single state. But did you have to give a victim impact statement? Tell us how you were a part of that.
Yeah. So at first I was not a part of any of it because I was just so traumatized. But as these things happen, like, now they have this appearance and they have that appearance. I started kind of wrapping my brain around it a little more and wanted to have my input. So, the DA, they wanted our input on it all. And basically they let it be up to us if we accepted the plea deal. They put it in our hands. And it was me and Justin's father and Justin's stepdad who made the choice to go ahead with it. And then we were there for sentencing day. So we came on sentencing day. I gave a victim impact statement and we walked right past the man. I looked him in the eye and I gave my statement. I'm very proud of that to this day. And then, I had the baby in the courtroom and, the news was there. It was traumatic.
What did your victim impact statement say, or at least kind of summarize it?
I really just wanted him to, he knew that he killed a new dad. He knew those circumstances, but I wanted him to know the whole truth because I feel like people always focus on, oh, well, you lost your husband when you were 3 days postpartum. But to me, it was my entire past, my entire future, our love story from being teenagers. So I really told our love story. So I got up there and I kind of told the story from the beginning. And then I, said what he took from me and all of that. And then I told him, you've lived your life, and you're gonna, this will never repay what you've done to me, but I want you to always remember me and, my family and what you did, something like that. I mean, it wasn't like, I think I had my original draft had like curse words in it. And then my dad was like,
no,
you rethink this. And I was like, okay. So yeah.
In a case like that, what do they call him? Does the perpetrator have a statement that they say back, or are they allowed to do that? Or did that person do that for you?
He did say, asked him, he had to say what he did. He had to say, I plead guilty, and then he said, he didn't talk to me, but then he did say something to the manner of, I'm so sorry, or something like that. I don't really remember. Talk about a blurry day. It was a blurry day. Yeah. And I had to sing that night.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Oh.
The life of a musician.
Yeah, the show goes on. Yeah.
Court in the morning, gig at night.
Yeah, I showed up to the gig and I was like talking to it was a new band I had just joined. And I was like,
oh gosh.
Yeah, so I just faced my husband's killer today.
Oh
and
gosh.
the other singer, he was like, WTF? Like, and he was like, you want a shot of this whiskey? I was like, give it to me.
Yes.
They're like, should we have hired you? Are you drama? That's the first thing that is out of your mouth. But you're like, no, this is true. This is my story.
Yeah.
So were you supporting yourself as a singer before he died? And were you able to support yourself as a singer after he died? Or did you have to rethink how you were going to be a human?
Well, yes, on all three of your questions. Me and Justin, that was literally my full-time job besides before making it. I'm not saying we ever made it big, but making it to supporting ourselves. I waited tables before that, but when he died, I was 100% supporting ourselves with our music, our band. So after he died, I thought I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. And I just talked about this yesterday because I gave a keynote speech yesterday and I talked about the fact that I swore off music forever. I said I was done. I'll never sing again. And I truly meant that at the time. And I turned off the radio for a long time, wouldn't even listen to music because my whole life had revolved around music. But then I guess it's just a part of our DNA as musicians. It slowly but surely, I had the itch and I had someone reach out to me and they offered me like an audition for a band. So I was able to join a full-time traveling band and I took my son on tour with me and we went on tour for 3 years and my mom went.
Wow. First of all, we need to go on tour together. It could just be called Dueling Widows. And I would like to say,
please come play the washboard.
No,
please.
you're a tambourine player, Anita.
Okay,
We've
fine.
already had rehearsal. You cannot learn a new instrument that fast.
Can I whistle also?
Yes.
And clap. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
A tambourine can be hard though.
Actually, it's
so
not hard.
That's why I'm not switching you off of that. Like
I did it so terribly. It was bad. But
you're a professional.
I believe that people can play the tambourine badly.
It's
but I'm
true.
not saying you did, but
I did and I can. But...
So Jess, your words were almost exactly what I said after my husband died. He was a theater director and I'm a musician, right? Touring musician. And it was like the music in my head died. Nothing. It was like that for you?
Yes. I mean,
I couldn't hear stuff. I only listened to podcasts for like 3 years, like no songs.
Yeah. I came back to it a little sooner before 3 years, but, it was my life. Like, to explain, like Justin lived and breathed rock and roll. Like that was his whole purpose in life. And he was, I don't make this up. He was incredible. He could have been a major, major guitar player. And so that was it. I was like, no, I cannot. Like it hurts. It just brings me nothing but pain. And, I listened to nothing but like 90s country for a long time.
Okay, wait.
Because I can bring Justin didn't like that music, so I was like, okay, I can listen to this.
Did you know I was music director for Colin Ray? Speaking of 90s country.
Really? That's amazing.
Yeah. So there you go. Maybe you listen to Colin.
I did. Yeah, I know.
Those are sad songs, though. Can we talk about that? People call, like when I was on the road with him, he would get tons of requests for people wanting to engrave some of those things on their headstone. I mean, he didn't write it, because you know how that works with artists, like
right. Especially a lot of like the 90s country, they didn't write their own music.
Yeah, it was like, here's a song from Tom Douglas, who wrote so many of the hits. But he would get requests because a lot of his songs were ballads and were really, really heartfelt kind of songs about love for people's tombstones. So it's like, how interesting. The death kind of thing there. So how were you able to listen to that though? Because there's Boot Scoot Boogie, which is like, that's lighter. Some of those are so heart-wrenching.
Yeah, I would, if it was anything sad, I didn't listen to a lot of music, but I would turn off the sad stuff, but yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's like that stuff that's cutting.
Yeah. And oddly enough, me and Justin's song was When You Say Nothing at All by Alison Krauss.
Come on.
So yeah, it was a 90s, like, but obviously, like, I never would listen to that song. And even today, it's hard. Like, I don't like listening to that song, even still.
Sometimes we assume that unless we had a huge life insurance payout, we don't really need to know anything about investments or even finances. But guess what? A little knowledge of finances is critical for all of us. Maybe your partner was in charge of that stuff, and now you find yourself making all the decisions. Maybe you're mad about that. Maybe I am. Nicole from the He's Gone But the Money's Not podcast is here to help. She tackles financial literacy by telling the stories of women and widows and finance experts, and shares the lessons they've learned as certified financial planners. Whether you know a lot and feel confident in your financial decisions or feel unsure about all of that stuff, there is more to learn. Listen and subscribe to the He's Gone But the Money's Not podcast on all podcast platforms. This ad was paid for by Rockhouse Financial, an SEC registered investment advisor. So you said it was what year? 20 that he died?
2014.
2014. So I'm guessing that you had widow brain for a minute there and you had no idea what was going on. When did you feel like life started to be something you were interested in again and that maybe you were going to be okay? Are you there yet?
Yeah. So I had widow brain and I had postpartum brain. It was bad. And I had trauma PTSD brain.
Mm-hmm.
I was diagnosed with PTSD too about, like 6 months after. I would say I started to see the light again. I saw a little bit of a light about like 8 to 9 months in. There was no normalcy at all, but it was when I started, like, I don't know, like that was when I got interested in maybe going back on not going on the road, but music again a little bit. But really participating in life again, I would probably say almost like 2 years. Yeah.
I feel like that's fast. So good job. Because
really?
Yes,
well, okay.
I do.
And I think, like, I feel like it was okay. So you guys know, like, the time slows down. So to me, like, I don't know, like 8 months to me felt like 2 years. Like it, and my son was like, I was watching this newborn grow before my eyes and as a new mom. So I felt like time was slipping away from me. So I almost felt a little like an urge to try and like find a future a little sooner, because I didn't want my son's like whole like baby life and toddler life to just be drowning in this terrible darkness. So
that's
I think
such an interesting idea though too, because when you have a baby and they're little, it's almost like you want to hang on to that time. You're like, oh, it's so precious. And you're like, also, I want this to be over. Like, because you're in grief at the same time, you know, you want to move quickly out of that stage, but also you're in this stage of like beautiful baby. And you're like, I just want to remember all of this, but I want to remember none of this too at the same time. So I imagine that was kind of a little bit tricky for your brain.
Oh yeah, that was the major juxtaposition of what I was going through, because I was supposed to be living my happiest days, but instead they were flipped upside down. You know, I say instead of breathing in motherhood, I was suffocating from widowhood. And as much as I loved my son and being a mom, I could not really enjoy much of it at all.
Yeah. Plus newborns are also hard. So like, no, that's like also not a, like, don't glorify that stage too much, but
no. And you know what? I've felt it, like, I know we're going to get to like my current time, but I've felt it with my second child. I've felt the hardness of newborn life, like a lot more than the first time, because the first time it was like, oh, well, baby's crying, like that I was so sad and so dark that I was like a zombie, I guess.
Yeah.
Very zombie like. Yeah.
So how in the world do you go from, first of all, what a random death, what a random way to die, so horrible. You have a newborn and the person you lost, you were together since you were teenagers. How do you even move forward through that? Will you talk to us about that?
Well, I think people
That's
say it.
vague, but like how do you even get to where you're okay with maybe thinking about being with another person? Because we're going to get to
Yes,
part of your next story in a minute.
right.
So talk to us
Yes.
about that.
Um, okay, so I just talked about this in my keynote yesterday is I I wanted, like I was just saying, like I wanted to be a good mom. The moment I became a mom, like it just changed me. Like it changed me as a person. And it was like, because I feel like, 30 is not like old to become a mom, but it's not like you're 20. So you've got some life experience behind you. So I felt like I had lived a lot before I became a mom. So when I became a mom, like it just changed me as a person and like changed my perspective. And then it all changed when Justin died. And all I can say is like my son was like my inspiration to do every little thing that I did to get myself back and moving. I went to a lot of therapy. I traveled a lot. Not even before traveling with a band. Me and my mom traveled the country. We traveled everywhere. We took the baby on the road. We first took our first trip when he was 2 weeks old. And we drove to Jacksonville, Florida, where my best friend lives, because I wanted to be near my friends, and we traveled for the holidays. I mean, so that was a lot. We traveled a lot. I
Did you
eventually,
go to Omaha?
yes, it was one of,
Okay,
no,
good.
I did not. No, we went to like, we actually mostly traveled where we like had family and friends. So that was mostly what we did. It wasn't like we were like hitting, the Bahamas or anything. Like we just traveled to see and be near people. And that was a big thing. And I think the therapy was big for me. And I started writing. That was when I first started like kind of diving into writing my blog and my book one day, and just all of that, like little things, little pieces here and there.
When did the singing widow on Instagram become a thing?
So funny. It used to be the Ayers music. So that was my original Instagram, was the one that I use now. It was like my personal one. And I changed it. Like you can change your handle. So when I decided to start my blog in 2015, so it wasn't even a year. It wasn't even a year. I think it was like 10 months. I think it was 10 months postpartum. Postpartum. Well, yeah, it was postpartum.
Both.
They're the same. 10 months, I decided to start my blog. So that was when I found the website, did it all. That was like a project for me. Like, I'm going to learn how to set up a website. And I watched YouTube videos and like, I just, stuff like that. So that was when I changed it to the Singing Widow. Yeah.
So I'm really curious because I've seen some of your reels and I am a sucker for watching things like that and then going to the comments because people are the worst.
Me too. Yes.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm
really,
curious about
when I really want to be disappointed in humanity, this is what I do. And I remember seeing multiple
They don't
people,
disappoint. They don't.
They don't. Multiple people saying things like, oh, you're just using the death of your husband to get famous, or when are you going to get over this? It's been all these years or whatever. Do you have a response to that? And what in the world?
Yes, I am so famous, y'all. I get noticed on the street everywhere I go.
You
No.
gave a keynote, so you must be pretty famous.
Yes, I know, right? Whatever. People can go screw themselves. I think, I think I hate that people use the word you are using. Like, and I feel like they use it like abuse, like
Yeah.
you're abusing what happened to you. And I did have a response to somebody one time where I said, why do I do this? Why do I tell my story? Why do I make reels? I do it all because my story is a freak show, first of all. Okay. Like I was being gossiped about. I was being talked about. News stories were being written about me. My story made the national news. Like it was everywhere. And I was the widow with the baby. And I got sick of being the widow with the baby. And I wanted to tell my story, and I wanted to tell it in my way. So that was really what I did. I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And so that's what I do. And I think that we have to empower ourselves with our stories, and with, they're sad and there's grief. And so I first started wanting to tell my story, and it was therapeutic for me. And then people started responding to it, and people started saying, this is helpful for me. And why would I stop now? Why would I stop because I've ruffled a few feathers, or a few people are uncomfortable with my grief, or with my dances, or whatever it is.
I think it's so interesting that people have, like, if they are so mad or offended that they take energy from themselves to you to say something, it's like, I would just be like, I'll unfollow you. That's fine if I didn't like it. But also, we know that where people get lots of negative comments, the flip side can be true too, that you'll get positive comments. So you said that people have reached out and said it's helped them. What are some other things that you've gotten?
And positive, you mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I mean, I've had people tell me, like, your blog or your Instagram account, like, got me through the day. Like, connecting with someone like you, or reading what you've been through. And, it's different now. It's interesting because now I'm 9 years out. And in the beginning, it was the raw grief, the really intense moments that I was sharing that was speaking to people. And now I'm not in that raw, like, early stage. I'm further along. So now my story is more like inspiring in a different way, because they see me and they see how far I've come. And then they think, like, okay, well, if she can do it, then I can do it. And they can, like, you can, guys, like, you can do it. Like, I know that sounds cheesy as hell.
When you were first writing, did you feel a sense of, I'm going to educate people about grief? I'm going to tell them how to deal with people in grief. And then it sounds like it's kind of morphed a little bit. You talked about it being really raw, and now it's kind of more like inspirational. I found for myself that in the beginning, I thought I knew everything about grief. I thought my grief was the same as everybody else's. And I was like, oh yeah, I can write a book. I can tell everybody what to do, what not to do, what to say, what not to say. And now I'm like, actually, I don't know anything. I don't know a single thing about grief. So sorry, guys. Do you find that too, that your blogging and your writing has kind of shifted in that way?
Oh, it's shifted a lot. And like you said, like, I don't think I wanted, like, in the beginning to educate. It wasn't like, I'm going to tell people about grief. It was more like, I just felt like, this, what's the word? Not allegiance. Like, I felt like I owed it to Justin. I feel like a lot of it was for Justin in the beginning. Like, everything I did was for him, like starting the blog and sharing my story, because I wanted to keep his memory alive. And that was really my inspiration in the beginning. Honestly, it was all selfish reasons. It was because I wanted to keep my husband's memory alive.
You were just using his story.
No, it was for him, it was
I was just joking.
Yeah. I mean, but it was like the opposite of using his story. It was like catapulting his story on a larger level and sharing it with a wider audience. And, I always said, like, more people that say his name that never met him, like, that brings me joy, So that was it in the beginning. And then, like, I didn't realize how therapeutic it was going to be, because I had gone from being a songwriter and then transitioned to being like a blogger. That was different for me, and then I realized that I was getting something out of it. And then it started helping people. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe I should do something with this. And then it just kind of like, changed into what it was. But the writing has changed a lot. And like, I think you're wrong. Like, a lot about grief. Like,
yeah, Anita, I'm with her.
No, I think that what I realize is that my experience is one experience. And so
absolutely,
there's it's so much broader than what my experience was. So that's why I say, my experience is one drop in a really big bucket of, like, in an ocean of
absolutely. And I 100% agree with that. And I don't think that, like, I know we haven't, like, brought my book up yet, but, like, my book is my husband. Sorry, do I keep like saying stuff about my current life and I'm not allowed to do that? I don't know.
You can do whatever, and then we'll ask about it.
Okay,
it's great.
So my current husband, like, I love like what he said about my book. Like, he gave me an Amazon review, and it was really sweet. And
You better have.
Yeah, I know. And he said like it's really like advice, but not advicey, like something like that. Like it's like advice in a very like far stretched way, because it's suggestions, and it is like tips and suggestions, and like maybe this will help, but it's not like you should do this or you have to do that. Like, because I don't think that we all deal with it the same. It's so unique to all of us.
So you mentioned a current husband. Can you tell us about that? Who is this?
Yes, I do have a current husband, remarried widow term that exists now, right? I'm a remarried widow, and I eventually had to change my like Instagram like profile to say remarried widow, and then I stopped like writing my husband died, and I've started like writing my first husband died, because then like people started thinking like, well, wait a minute, I thought you were married, and people were like confused. So yes, I got remarried to the most amazing man. Of course, he's amazing. He deals with me every day. And his name's Don, and we got married 5 years ago, and we recently had a daughter together. So we've expanded our little widow family here.
How did you meet him?
So we actually knew each other from the past. Remember, I told you I used to wait tables before I was a full-time musician. He was a bartender, and I was a waitress at Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville.
Yes. This could not get any more Florida.
I know. So we were just coworkers. We were like coworkers, and we were like, it's kind of funny. He used to come see my band play. Like, we weren't like best friends, or like, we hardly really ever like talked, but I remember I thought he was a really nice guy. I was like, oh, he's a nice guy. And I remember thinking all the way back then, like, he's going to make some girl really happy one day. Cause I just thought he was like such a gentleman.
You.
And I know, I never thought it would be me. And we reconnected through a mutual friend when I was on the dating scene. And yeah, the rest is dramatic history, as you can imagine.
How did the dating scene go?
I know a lot of widows like hate the dating scene, but I had fun with it. I did. Like I had never dated. So like when I started dating, I had like lost a lot of weight, and I was feeling really confident. I lost the weight very unhealthily. let me add, like, probably a slight eating disorder in that time. But I thought I looked good, and yeah, I had fun. I got on the dating apps, and when Don came along, like, I was not ready for him. I was like enjoying being like singleton, and he just had to come and take it all away.
Oh man, that's, I want to know about when you were dating people, when you let people know that your husband had been killed by a stray bullet while going to get fried chicken. Like, what date do you tell people that? At what point in the date?
Okay, so with one guy, it was date number 4, and it was the last one. I ended up in tears in the bathroom.
Oh.
I left, and it was very traumatic for me, really traumatic. And the next day I ended up having one of the worst panic attacks of my entire life. I was also probably drinking too much at that time in my life. And yeah, I felt like this guy was using me for my story. Because my story was very easily Googleable.
That's
and this was, I actually was writing my blog at the time, not a lot, but I did have my website. But I mean, you could Google my name back then, and the news story would come up, and we Google each other, right? So it was like he would slowly ask me questions or whatever, and I thought he was interested in me, and then I just remember feeling like used, like he just like was attracted to like the fascination of my story and me, and then like it was really traumatic. evening. So yeah, that wasn't fun. But I did go on like one of my first dates as a widow. Like I dropped the bomb on that sucker like that night. Like, and we never went back out. But that's because I didn't like him.
Oh my gosh. You're amazing. Tell us more about the book, how that came to be.
Yeah. So I've been writing my memoir, because I'm sure all of us widows want to write a memoir, for a while now. And so that was originally going to be my first book. And then I don't know, I just started like slowly writing this other book because I was getting so much like DMs and emails from widows asking me questions and advice. And I was like, let me just put it in a book. So that was what I did. And I wrote it in like less than a year. Like it was like, I don't know, it was like 8 months. I wrote the book. It's not a really long book, but
it's 13 pages long, you guys. It's an easy read.
Yeah. So that's how the book came about. Yeah.
What's it called?
Your partner is dead. Now what?
You know?
And then the subtitle is Your Life's Not Over, but it's going to suck for a while.
Yes. That's a great
I don't know.
It's
I feel
valid.
like I had to like have like a title that was realistic. Like,
Yeah. I think that's really great. That's a great title. Tell us about your newer baby. Newer? Is that rude to say? Newer?
No, no.
Tell us
newest
about
baby.
your newest baby.
Yeah. Her name is Sloan. And after me and Dawn got married, we immediately started trying to have another baby. And doggone it, if life didn't want to give me another issue, it decided to bless me with infertility. So we tried and we tried and we tried, and it was not happening. And that was my second like wave with grief. Like infertility is tough. It's really tough. And it was bringing back all of the emotions of my former grief. And I just wanted, I was like, I need a chance to do this again. Like, God, like you ruined my first chance with having a baby. So let me have another baby and have this happy moment to have a baby with my second husband. So 4 years later, we finally did IVF, and first try, would you have it? With IVF, I got one embryo, which is really, really bad results. Really bad results to get one embryo. Yeah, I was like, well, okay, I got one, and she's stuck. And yeah, she's our miracle IVF baby, and we named her Sloan because Sloan means warrior, and she's our warrior baby, and she is currently 16 months old.
Hey, I'm not even surprised though about the infertility. When you think about the trauma and what it wreaks upon your body, like it doesn't seem surprising to me at all that wasn't an issue for you in the beginning, and then it was after you've been through all of this. Like, of course, that's what's going to happen, because how else? Your body just can't compete with all of that.
Yeah, and I was shocked though when it happened, because I mean, when I'm telling you, like me and my husband have some good chemistry, like we have some good chemistry. And they always say that, oh, that's like, you're going to make a baby together. So we're like, yeah, it's going to happen. And then we made a baby in a
test tube.
A test tube. Yay.
You're like,
but whatever, it doesn't matter how the baby got here. It kind of almost like, I cherish it now because it was like adds a layer to our story,
Yeah, so you have like a 9-year-old and a 16-month-old. That's going to be like two different families.
I know. He was an only child for 8 years, and now, and when he moves out, she'll be like an only child for like 8-ish, 7-ish years or whatever.
Yeah.
I have lived that. I am the oldest, and my younger sister is 9 years younger than me.
I think I heard you say that on one of your recent podcasts, and I was like, "Oh, yay! She understands." So you were the younger one, or you were the older one?
I'm the older one. So it's interesting because it's like I remember being when Anita actually has talked about her older kids helping with the younger kids. That was me, and sometimes I was like, well, wait, but I'm kind of the parent, right? Because I'm babysitting all the time and I'm older, but I'm like not the parent. So like, when can I discipline? So it was kind of confusing for me for a minute, and then, but it was true. It was like two separate kind of families, and it's like I have a sibling, but I'm the same age in siblinghood as my younger sister. So
Yeah.
I probably was super immature. Like she was 2 years old living, and I was 2 years old as a sibling.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, it's been like a little bit, there's been a little bit of a change, what's the word I'm trying to say?
Learning
There's
curve.
yes, thank you. There's been a bit of a learning curve, to get where we are now. And Jax is, he's dealing with the idea that, Don's not his biological dad, but Don is Sloane's, and he's like, having some feelings of feeling left out. Even though Don's been like, we tell him like he's been officially his dad since he was 4, because we got married when Don was 4. But
not when Don was 4. Don was older
no,
than that, I'm sure.
when Jax was 4.
Not even in Florida, Anita.
No!
That was a good joke. You set yourself up for that.
Yeah.
How does your son deal with never knowing his dad, and how did you try and keep the memory alive specifically for him? Because that is such a loss for him and for you watching him. Sometimes I think our kids don't fully grasp because they never knew that person, and it's like you feel like you need to insert those memories. You need to insert the memories for them or help teach them who their dad was.
Yeah. It's been like, it comes in stages, right? So like, obviously, like, he used to call Don, and then like all of a sudden one day he called Don dad, and it was before Don was dad. It was like, he just like knew he was the dad role, but then he used to always look at pictures of Justin and we called him dad. So he's grown up knowing his dad was dead, but, we just recently in May told him how Justin died.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's something that I did not tell him because I mean, like, that's a scary thing for a child. Like, and my son like has kind of like, he's OCD and ADHD. So like he has like kind of, I mean, all kids have irrational fears, but like he's like afraid of like a meteorite falling on him in the middle of the night. And I was like, oh my God, I don't want to be afraid of a bullet coming and killing him. And I just thought it was just too adult for him to know. So I wanted to wait until I felt like he could handle it. And it wasn't like I ever lied to him and told him he died a different way. It was more like, when you're old enough, like it was an accident, like it was a really bad accident. He knows he was there, and when you're old enough, I'll give you the full details. And then he took it really well when we finally told him. And he asked, I mean, kids are so funny. He was like, or I was like, was it worse than you thought? Like, was it worse than you thought or not as bad as you thought? He's like, well, not as bad as I thought. And I was like, oh, okay, well, what would be worse? And he was like, well,
a meteor
like
hit him.
If somebody had a pencil and they like jabbed it in the person. And I was like, okay, like that wouldn't kill you, but whatever, like, just go with this. Like, but yeah, so anyways, I think I'm glad that he knows now, because now I don't feel like I have to like talk in code or like, really when my book came out, that was when I was like, okay, we got to tell him, because he wanted to come to my book release party and like, he had to know. And so he deals with, like I said, in phases. He doesn't miss his dad because he doesn't know his dad. And I don't push that grief on him. I don't try to make him miss his dad, but I do share a lot about his dad with him, and I share stories and I show him pictures, and we do like a big birthday thing for his dad. We do a poker game because Justin was big into poker. So we do that, a lot of different stuff, so, I think it's going to have a bigger impact on him when he's a little bit older.
Interesting. Yeah. Wow. I just am still like, Holy cow.
Yeah.
You were just thrown into this world in such a terrible, terrible way. I'm so sorry.
I
It's
know.
not fair.
Yeah.
I have one question for you, if we can ask this question at this
Yeah.
point to bring
Yeah.
it out of somberhood. What's your favorite cheese?
Oh my God, I forgot you guys do the cheese thing. Well, I guess I have to say blue cheese because I love blue cheese stuffed olives in my martinis.
Well,
So
there you go.
I like how she said it sort of reluctantly.
I love a lot of cheese. It's hard to pick one. I like stinky cheese. I love mozzarella cheese, like the big buffalo mozzarella, but I guess I'll say blue cheese because I eat the
Okay.
most.
I think
Nice.
that's totally fair. Well, Jessica/Jess/not
Never
Jessie.
Jessie.
Thank you so
Never.
much for sharing your story. Do you want to tell us where you can find your book and where we can find your blog or Instagram or all of the things?
Or your website.
Yeah, whatever. It is.
Yes, all of the above. You can find my website, thesingingwidow.com. You can find my Instagram, The Singing Widow, TikTok, The Singing Widow.
Everything.
I made it really easy for you. And you can find my book on Amazon, of course, or you can find it on Barnes and Nobles. It's also on audiobook. I narrated it myself. I put a
That's
lot
so
of hard
rad.
work into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Mel. Wait, Anita.
Mel. Wait.
Mel. Wait, which
Mel.
one's the musician?
Me.
Mel.
Mel.
Yeah, I was right the first time. Mel, I felt like going back into the recording studio. It was like such an amazing feeling. And like I put on my rock clothes and like I was like, yeah, it's like recording studio day. Like it was,
Yeah.
and then we incorporated some of me and Justin's music in the audiobook. So
Oh, I love
That's so cool.
that.
Also, thank you because I cannot read a book anymore. I don't have time to sit down and read a book, and so I only listen to books anymore. So if your book is not on audio, it's very likely that it will not get read all the way through for me.
No,
So
I
thanks.
relate to that. And it's like I enjoy reading, but like I'm so tired at night. And I feel like that's the only time I like try to read. And then I like am reading for 5 minutes and then I'm falling asleep. So I listen to audiobooks too, like if I'm doing the dishes or
Mhm.
walking my daughter on her leash.
I did have a leash for one of my kids, just FYI, so it's not too far-fetched.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thanks so much, Jessica. We
Can
appreciate
I mention
it.
something really quick? I don't know if I'm
No.
like allowed to mention something.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was listening to your podcast and I wanted to like mention my story. Like y'all were talking about the religious stuff.
Oh, yeah. Tell us. What's the deal?
Yeah. So like I didn't get to the end of it. I think you still had like 5 minutes left or something. And so I don't know if anybody said this, but like I was super in the church. Like me and Justin were like, we met in church. So that was how we met each other. So we were first playing in Christian bands when we were younger. So we were raised in the church, like that was our thing. And whew, when he died, I was like, no, like I was like anti-God, anti-church. I was like, this is terrible. So obviously in the beginning, I was just like, people would say like, oh, I pray for you or whatever. And I remember I had the thoughts of like, well, for what? Like, I remember thinking like, why? I prayed, for, this person, you would hear the stories of like, oh, well, this person prayed and then this person was saved. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Well, why was this person saved and my husband wasn't saved? So I remember I had those thoughts, but
it's because you didn't pray that he wouldn't get struck by a stray bullet. Like yours weren't specific enough.
Yeah, it wasn't specific enough. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, here I am 9 years later. And I do think like my view of Christianity and God and everything has shifted. Like it's different than it was. It's not like I used to believe, but it has changed. Let me say that. But it hasn't turned me into an atheist or anything.
So interesting. I find.
But yeah, I found all the stories interesting, and I just wanted to mention that because.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like the biggest win of this recording session is that Mel did not barf. So thanks so much for joining us today. If you want to keep the podcast going, check out our Patreon. It's patreon.com/WWDN.
If you'd like to buy us tacos, it's buymeacoffee.com/widow we do now.
And also just give us a nice rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It really does help. And until we get to talk to you again, I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
And I'm Jess.
And we are just two young widows and one singing widow. And we're all just trying to figure out widow.
We
Do.
now.
Okay, you guys I want you guys to do performance together.
Okay, so I'm my mom's son. My mom is one of the people that's always on the podcast. Her name is Anita. And I'm going to read some of your guys' names because you are really nice people and you just give away free money to my mom. And that's nice. Barbara Schneeberger, Constance Bell Dahlbach, David, Don Satterwhite, Emily Wiesenberg, Evelyn Flores, Ivan Meisner, Jen Turk, Krista Waite, Christian J. Pollock, Maya Glasser, Neil Hopper, Rebecca Zeba, Kara Cornejo, Alexis King Aldelho, Amy Hartman Martel, Annika Goodman, Ashley Hahn, Becky Luders, Berkeley, Brandy Younger, Chris Steffen, Cindy Wilkerson, Connie Remich, Danielle Katterberg, Deborah Nilek, Dennis Brozo, Diana Duhamel, Jen O'Brien, Jennifer Beal, Jennifer Brown, Karen Lindsay, Karina Jacobo, Lara Aguirre Penner, Leah Johnston, Lissa Hardman Powell, Lou Clausen, Murray Hoffman, Mary Kathleen Anderson, Meg Murto, Patricia Weist, Sunshine Haven, Alicia McAllister, Amy Burke, Ann Durramain Drennan, Anna Trackle, Tracy, Audrey Henninger, Brittany Cruz, Kathy Mazzetta, Christina Scambato, Christina Anderson, Cindy Reno, Dawn Barber, Debbie Fells, Deborah Westwood, Doris Reichel, Eileen Stevens Delm, Eric Van der Meulen, Gabe Lozano, Gia Benoit, Gina Haas, Jackie Coyle, she's pretty cool, I know her. Jan Coloris Celia, Jane, she's cool too, I know her. Jean Maria Massey, Jennifer Davis, Jenny Armstrong, Jennifer Sanders, Jenny Barrow, I know her too. She gave me a belt. It's pretty radical. Jenny Dippold, Jessica Bork, Jocelyn Milo, Jill Hanson Williams, Johnny Walker, Judy Malkin, Karen Ochora, Carol Schultz, Kathy Murray, Katie Gitz, Kate Radcliffe, Katie Saucier, Kevin Furry, Kimberly J. Shellady, Lara Keeley, Lara C., Lindsay Konopka, Marianne Harmond, Marianne McDonald, Mary McGowan, Melissa Bowers, Melissa Hancock, Missy Scoobert Monson, Naomi Brown, Rachel Tang, Rebecca Olemaker, Robin Flam, Stacy Saywert, Susie Dunnigan, Trenton Thompson, Vivian Hart, Wendy. Okay? That was a lot of really confusing names. Sorry if your name got screwed up. And I'll leave the rest to my mom.
Thank you, number 2. I appreciate your help in this matter. That's pretty vulnerable for him to do. It's not his strong suit, so hopefully you can recognize your name in there and appreciate the hard work that was for him. And we just want to thank you guys from the bottom of our hearts. Patreon really is what allows us to keep doing the podcast, supports us through the hard and the easy, the thick and the thin. If you'd like to join our Patreon, it's patreon.com/WWDN. We really do appreciate and need all the support we can get. Thank you.
This is my favorite thing to discuss with you.
Tell me, what is it?
One of my favorite things. I do enjoy tacos and cheese and dogs. This is about how you cannot pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a phone plan, especially when you're a widow, your person is dead, you might have kids, you might need another option, and you just want your phone to work, you want unlimited texting and service, and you want it to be like $25 a month.
It blows my mind that they have plans that start at $15 a month. That is so cheap. And the cool thing is it uses other 5G networks, and so you don't have to pay extra for that, and you still get great service.
Yep, Anita and I have traveled all over, and I have used my phone. So I highly recommend it. And my mom's even on it. When my dad died, we put his phone down to the cheapest plan, which is $15 a month. And I think my mom's on the $20 a month plan, and it's so worth it. It's so much cheaper than what we were all paying before. So I highly recommend it if you're on a budget or not. Who cares? Ryan Reynolds is in charge of the company, and they send you free stickers with Ryan Reynolds temporary tattoos. It's kind of the best. So if somebody wants to sign up, what can they do, Anita?
Go to trymintmobile.com/WWDN. Seriously, you guys, such a great idea. Save yourself some money.
And if you're worried about losing data or having any changes with your phone, not going to happen. They walk you through it. Everything's fine. It's the easiest process of all time. Again, that's
trymintmobile.com/WWDN.